Are you a busy mom trying to juggle your business and your kids and wondering how the heck am I going to get healthy food on the table on top of this without spending hours in the kitchen? Hours that I don't even have, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that it is possible, totally possible. And here we are, Growth Harmony Food Productivity Month, and I'm going to share with you 3 of my top strategies for making this a reality using X forces, these incredible things in the universe, in science, and just ancient wisdom, ways of being much more productive and finding harmony in our life. So stay tuned.
Grow in harmony with Growth Harmony.
All right, so we're focusing on food productivity this month at Growth Harmony, and I made a whole video about why that's important for mom entrepreneurs. You can find that link around this video. Okay, so you might be thinking, I barely have time for anything else. How am I going to manage food on top of all of my other responsibilities? And I'm happy to tell you that thought is probably one that's come from previous generations, your mom, grandmom, even earlier than that. Because, yeah, food used to take a really, really long time to prepare, especially when you're doing things from scratch, especially when you're using wholesome ingredients. Now, these earlier generations didn't really have the tools, first of all, the appliances and other tools to make things faster. And even if they did, they might not have been looking at the whole picture and their whole day about how they could do things faster. Well, I'm helping a new generation of moms. Now we have technology and we have this knowledge that we can use to be more productive. And we're making up our own rules so that we can balance our many responsibilities that we love, right? We love having our own business and our families and having a beautiful home to live in. We can also do this with ease and flow and harmony in our lives. Okay, so let's dive in. Strategy number 1. This is meal planning. Now, if you heard of meal planning and you're already doing it, awesome. If you've heard it and you're like, ooh, meal planning, and you kind of cringe, I just ask you to hold on for just one moment while I go through this section. Maybe, just maybe, keeping an open mind on how this goes. So first of all, what is meal planning? For those of you who don't know, it's about planning ahead what food you're going to eat in the future. So rather than deciding that day or that moment, what's for dinner, right? You've got some type of a plan in place. These can look completely different for different people, but generally there's some type of a calendaring system involved. Now with meal planning, we highlight the X force of planning. It's in the name, right? We're planning. And the reason planning works is there's a lot of neuroscience associated with it. Now, thinking ahead works because the brain is already getting familiar with an idea. It's getting prepped, it's getting primed. The fear and the panic is kind of going away. And you're also doing some of the work ahead of time. And generally, when you're in a calmer state than when you need to have that thing done right away. All right, so when it comes to meal planning, the great thing is you can get your ingredients ahead of time, so you always have what you need on hand for your meal because you've already thought it through. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, here's a different way of looking at it and thinking about it. Remember when your baby was born, your first child, and you came home and you were like, oh my gosh, excited but so overwhelmed, so in love but so overwhelmed and tired and everything, right? And slowly but surely you practiced and you found a rhythm. Well, guess what? Meal planning is way easier than being a brand new mom with a baby coming home. The nice thing is you can take baby steps to adjust and find your own rhythm. All right, so one baby step to get started is to pick, let's say, a breakfast item, something that you know how to make, that you have the ingredients on hand for, and just say, okay, today's Monday. On Thursday, I'm going to have that item. Maybe it's oatmeal, or maybe it's some type of a smoothie. Just write it down, jot it down somewhere. And then when Thursday comes along, you know you've got the ingredients and you've already thought about it, so you can plan on Thursday being your oatmeal day or your smoothie day. Simple first step, and then adding on from there. Okay, tip number 2 is food prep. Food prep is about preparing some food ahead of time. Now, generally, when you prepare food ahead of time, it's wise to do a little bit more than what you need just for that meal. And here is an X-Force concept that we use at Growtharmony a lot. This comes up a lot, and it's called batching. And I just watched a video where Tim Ferriss, he is a productivity, lifestyle design expert. He gives an example of batching as like doing laundry, for example. And he says, would you wash your socks every time they were dirty? Or do you wait to get a bunch of laundry together and then wash them? So that's the idea of batching, is that collecting a bunch of activities that are similar or the same and then doing them together at once. I've talked about batching in a previous video, like today I'm batching content videos, doing a bunch of them at once. The whole setup of the camera and getting the lights and everything worked out takes time. And so if we can eliminate those many times of setting up and many times of cleaning up, and just set up once, do that action many times, and clean up once, we're saving a ton of time in the long run. Now, some examples of batching in the kitchen that I use every week would be carrots. Instead of peeling 1 or 2 carrots as I need them, I peel the whole bag of carrots and stick them in a container and put them in the fridge. And carrots don't dry out very much, and they're very versatile in a lot of recipes. So you can just easily take them and grate them if you need, chop them up for a healthy snack if you're on the road, but they're ready to go. I also hard boil eggs, not just 1 or 2 when we need them, but 6 to 8 eggs at once. So I'm not, spending time every few days boiling the water and letting the eggs cool. And I put little smiley faces on them in pencil so we know which ones are hard boiled. But all of that is done once a week rather than throughout the week. And a third example of batching is cheese. So we eat a lot of cheese, and we put cheese in a lot of our recipes. So with cheese, you can slice, for example, have a whole bunch sliced if you buy the cube. Which will also save you some money if you get the ones that aren't pre-sliced. But then you or your kids, depending on how old they are and their skills, can take the cheese cutter, cut some slices ready for sandwiches, for example, putting in omelets, and then grating a bunch of cheese also at the same time is great for like pasta dishes or sprinkling on top of chili or fajitas or Mexican dishes too. All right, now my third tip, love doing this and has made such a big difference in my life, is having a few go-to meals that we have on heavy rotation in our meal planning. Okay, and here we're leveraging an idea, a strategy, an X-Force around self-awareness. And self-awareness, we break down at Growtharmony, is knowing what your passions are, your personality, and also your purpose, right? And looking at our family and seeing what we like, what strengths we have, what we have, our reason, our motivation, what types of foods we want to serve. And when we find a food that fits all those categories, let's do more of them, and let's do them consistently. So I have a few go-to meals for busy moms, mom entrepreneurs. I don't like the word busy, but we have a lot on our plate, and we are juggling a lot of things. So it's nice to have some go-to meals in our back pocket that are quick but also really simple and nutritious and healthy ingredients. So the first one is some type of a pasta dish with vegetables. There's so many different type of pastas out there. I'm personally on the GAPS diet to try to heal my digestive system naturally. In Growtharmony magazine, I show you a lot of the foods that I eat for GAPS. If you're interested, I'll link to that below. But the pasta dishes come in, there's rice pasta and buckwheat pasta and lentil pasta and gluten-free pasta and whole wheat pasta and regular pasta and organic pasta. There's a whole bunch of types of pastas ready. And the amazing thing with pasta is that it cooks in about 10 minutes. And most kids love them. They're pretty mild in flavor, and you can adjust and add whatever you'd like to them. And if you have some vegetables that your kids will eat, try to get that different colors and nutrition in there for them. You can adjust this recipe to your child and your own personal needs, your dietary needs. Pasta with vegetables, you can add a sauce in there, whether it's some type of a white cream or cheese sauce or some type of tomato-based sauce. Super versatile and pretty quick. All right, recipe number 2 is some type of a ground beef or a ground meat or a ground substitute for meat. Those cook up really quickly and don't have a lot of cutting and cleanup either. So these types of ground meat or meat substitute products are really nice to have on hand for a quick meal, either with a side of pasta or side of rice or side of some other type of starch that your family eats to give you a little more filling. And then adding some vegetables or just meat and vegetables as a saute can be really beautiful too. But the ground beef is also an inexpensive choice of meat, cut for a lot of families who want to save money on meat. All right, my third go-to meal, and this is when we're in a little bit of a pinch, right? And we're like, oh, what are we gonna have for dinner? We usually have eggs on hand. Now, eggs for us are usually a breakfast item, and when I do serve eggs outside of breakfast time, my kids are kind of like, we're having eggs, right? But eggs with potatoes or omelets, like frittatas types of things. Eggs can be used as a main meal outside of breakfast as well. So if you do eat eggs, it's something to consider. Quick to whip up. Usually you don't just buy one or two eggs, right? You've got a whole bunch on hand, and something that you can prepare that is also very nutritious for your family. Okay, we covered a lot today, and as with everything else, take what works for you, experiment, give it a try. If something doesn't work, try the next thing, right? Or come back to it later. Like we're going to learn by making mistakes, we're going to learn by failing, we're going to try, and sometimes things will work right away, which is fantastic, but oftentimes they don't. So little baby steps are a key, and maybe it's just taking one little thing from what I said today, implementing them, or just adding them over time is really how you can be more productive, doing more of what works and less of what doesn't. And I do have a training coming up that's going to dive even deeper into the specific strategies of saving money on food. So, not just the food prep and making it quick and healthy, but also saving money and still nourishing our family with healthy food. So, I'll link to that below too. And remember, we're doing things a completely new way. There's new tools out there, new mindsets out there, and you're doing incredible work in the world that I really want to support. Let's get that work out there. Let's still have balanced time with our family and keep our homes somewhat organized as best we can, and also grow thriving businesses. I'm Suzanne with Growtharmony and wishing you a wonderful, productive, harmonious day. Bye.
Grow in harmony.